After a long winter, it's kind of the official start of the summer. We're here in Lakeside Park. The Carousel is opening today. Doesn't matter how old you are, everybody's a kid again. Let's go for a ride.
Enjoy your ride.
And this goes back generations. Lakeside Park has been a destination for so many people to come to the waterfront of our community from far and wide. And so our investments into Lakeside Park over the last couple of years, we've invested over $2 million, has really done a wonderful job to continue to build the highlight of the carousel and then put a spotlight on Port Dalhousie and Lakeside Park.
And it's still, in any budgeting meeting, it's probably the easiest decision. It's still a nickel. It'll always be a nickel.
It'll always be a nickel, and that's something that we pride ourselves on. And a lot of that goes to the work of the Friends of the Carousel as well, realizing that the agreement is a nickel, but the Friends of the Carousel, they, through their volunteer efforts, $1.3 million in savings because they repair the animals every off season. And if we had to pay for that, it's $1.3 million so far that they've saved the taxpayers of St. Catharines. So they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for making sure that this carousel is the best carousel in North America.
We work off season. So you have the carousel season, and then our season starts the first week of October into our workshop. And as you can see a little bit behind me, this horse that's here, that's actually what's underneath. This one actually needs some repair, but that's what's underneath all the beautiful painting and the beautiful horses and characters that you see on the carousel. And so we take it from this as to what it is you see when you ride. So there's an awful lot of work and intricate detail. We adhere to strict guidelines and traditional practices for the carousel, as well as the city also has a carousel plan. So with paint colors that are traditional, and we adhere to absolutely everything that they set out, and we work very closely with them.
And it was a thrill for us as children to grow up in the environment until we were really a young teenager, at which time, there was the demise, and that's when the chattels were being removed from the property, and the only thing is that there was this sort of hope that the merry-go-round would stay. So between the vision of trying to keep it here, my grandfather, and with the inspiration of Mrs. Crabtree, did some fundraising. He said it was for sale, and then she did fundraising to raise money to keep it in the city. So between the two of them, I think it was in both their hearts that they wanted it here.
And he was selling the carousel for $25,000. Well, Dorothy Crabtree, who was an antiques dealer at the time, she's like, no, that's not happening. So she launched a campaign. And we hear from many people who remember when they were children that they were actually collecting all their change and putting it in towards saving the carousel. So it's really cool stories that we hear. But she was only able to come up with $20,000. So Sid said, that's okay. I will take that $20,000, but with two provisos. Number one is it must always stay in Port Dalhousie. And number two, it must always remain at a nickel a ride. And so she agreed, and the deal was done. And then the two of them went to the city and did the same deal there and said, we will give this to the city, but this is what it is with the proviso. And the city said, absolutely. And so that is why we had the carousel here in Port Dalhousie still at a nickel a ride.
It doesn't matter how old you are. Every time you get on the Lakeside Carousel, everyone's a kid again. And it's not very expensive. How much is it, Catherine Jane?
A nickel.
So save up your nickels and come on down for a ride. Reporting for The Source, I'm Bob Nichols Romeo.